Honoring our heroes, President William Ruto leads Kenyans in celebrating Mashujaa Day, the 59th edition. And leadership crisis rocks Britain. What is happening down there? Good evening and thank you very much indeed for joining us. We have more details right on this bulletin. My name is O'Brien Kimani. Welcome to the Prime Edition on this special coverage of Mashujaa Day. We have Lensa Odingo as our sign language expert. She's joining us tonight. At O'Brien Kimani is my Twitter handle. At KBC Channel 1 is our Twitter handle. Welcome to this bulletin. As always, karibu sana. President William Ruto says it is time Kenyans ask citizens to work at making Kenya great. Operations of the disbanded Special Unit Service Unit to be probed. Liz Truss resigns as UK Prime Minister after 45 days in office. Two-time Rotterdam Marathon champion Marius Kipserem is banned for 3 years after failing a dope test. And the return of the general. We also tell you the comeback of Miguna Migunya as Kenya marks Mashujaa Day. Well, we start off our bulletin tonight on the event at the Uhuru Gardens, where President William Ruto says it is time Kenyans demonstrate the patriotism of a new age and express timeless values which unite the nation with its heroes and heroines. The head of state said the nation has a duty to respect, uphold and defend the Constitution. Speaking during the Mashujaa Day celebrations held at Uhuru Gardens in Nairobi, the head of state said it is time to actualize individual and national aspirations.
Presiding over his first national celebration, President William Ruto called on Kenyans to unite and accomplish major feats, noting that our predecessors achieved major feats with minimal resources.
We are united in common endeavor with those who came before us and did so much for our country. We may define ourselves as a nation proudly standing on the foundation of the Constitution, united in pursuit of the well-being of every citizen.
The head of state said it's time to roll up sleeves, work hard and actualize our dreams as a country.
I want to state that I will work with all the leaders who have been elected in all formations for the good and for the prosperity of our country.
At the same time, President William Ruto reiterated his commitment to boosting agriculture, calling on farmers to adopt climate-smart agriculture, saying it's the lead way to the foundation for our future.
It is now time to lay the foundation for our future. Agriculture, as the lead sector to the economic transformation of our country, is the place to start.
His sentiments were echoed by his deputy Rigathi Gachagua, who said unity is key to achieving greater heights of development as a nation.
The challenges that we face as a nation, ranging from socio to economic, belong to all of us. I call upon all Kenyans to each make a contribution every day in a simple or a small way. It matters. As they say in Kiswahili, umoja ni nguvu.
Ruth Wamboi for Prime Edition.
Still on Mashujaa Day, where police officers attached to the disbanded Special Services Unit accused of executing extrajudicial killings will be prosecuted. President William Ruto ordered the investigations into the operations of the SSU squad, saying those found culpable of executing extrajudicial killings will be prosecuted. In his speech during Mashujaa Day celebrations, the president promised to ensure investigative and prosecutory agencies work independently to wage war against corruption effectively.
The Special Service Unit was disbanded 4 days ago following orders by President William Ruto. The unit is accused of being behind forceful disappearances, torture and extrajudicial killings in the country. And even before the dust settles after the disbandment, the officers of a unit will now be under probe and those found culpable prosecuted. Speaking during the Mashujaa Day celebrations at Uhuru Gardens, President Ruto said government is keen on ridding the criminal justice system of such elements and tactics.
I have directed that immediate measures be undertaken to disband the Special Services Unit in the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, and with urgency, investigations must be commenced so that those found culpable are held to account.
President Ruto says his administration will be taking radical measures meant to facilitate the enhancement of capacities in the criminal justice chain.
A professional police service fosters harmonious relations with citizens and communities, cannot be weaponized in pursuit of divisive or partisan agenda, and can never resort to disastrous policies like extrajudicial murder as part of policing.
The head of state says the government will not tolerate lawlessness and has since undertaken necessary personnel realignments in the security services to facilitate the rapid achievement of their objectives.
I believe we can keep this country safe and secure without tormenting our people. We can efficiently and effectively suppress crime, monitor and disrupt and apprehend criminals without abducting, torturing, killing, or causing citizens to disappear.
While emphasizing the independence of a national police service, President Ruto promised to allow investigative and prosecution agencies a free hand to do their investigations without political interference so they can effectively aid the war against graft.
On my first day in office, I executed the instruments to actualize the financial autonomy of the National Police Service and have given the necessary directives to enable it rapidly achieve national security strategic objectives. These actions extend to the facilitation of the Director of Criminal Investigations to expeditiously resolve investigations to a standard that can support effective prosecution and secure convictions.
The president has also ordered for a decisive crackdown on banditry and terror elements in the north of Kenya so the region can enjoy peace like the rest of the country.
They too deserve to live and work in safety and dignity and to pursue happiness without let or hindrance. And yet, terrorists, bandits, cattle rustlers, and all manner of violent criminals have held them back, extinguishing or deferring for far too long too many hopes and dreams as the rest of the country makes progress. It is time for this lawlessness to stop and stop for good.
John Jacob Curia, Prime Edition.
Still on Mashujaa Day, where the government will construct 100 dams in the next 5 years to upscale land under irrigation and alleviate water scarcity in arid and semi-arid areas. President William Ruto has said the construction of the dams will be done through the public-private partnership due to cost overlays. Ruto has also said the government plans to increase funding to the agriculture sector to promote resilience against climate variability and change. Since 2013, the government has spent more than 500 billion shillings to construct or expand various dams in the country. These include Thwake, Karimino and Dhiba dams, among others. The government is targeting to construct more than 100 small and major dams in various parts of the country.
The huge capital outlay required for dam construction in the context of competing budgetary priorities poses a huge challenge to this program. And to address this challenge, we are working on innovative investment mechanisms through public-private partnership.
Speaking during the 59th Mashujaa Day celebrations at Uhuru Gardens, President William Ruto said the dam will help alleviate water problems and increase land under irrigation in the country. Other dams include Brune Sinyoi Dam in West Pokot, which is being constructed at a cost of 5 billion shillings, the 20 billion shillings Bosto Dam in Bomet County, and the 17 billion shillings Roiro 2 Dam in Kiambu County.
We have to take very bold steps to end the perpetual cycle of hunger and dependency on rain-fed agriculture. We must eradicate hunger in our country in the shortest time possible.
The president regretted that, despite immense opportunities to increase land under irrigation, only less than 2 million acres of land is under mechanized farming, dealing a major blow to food security efforts. To lower the cost of farming in the country, the president has said plans are underway to distribute 6 million bags of fertilizer to smallholder farmers.
In the short term, we will continue with the fertilizer import program. But in the medium term, the government plans to have fertilizer manufactured in partnership with EAC countries in our region.
Ruto has said the distribution of the subsidized fertilizer will now be done with close collaboration with the county government that will be in charge of last mile distribution to local farmers. Leaders and members of the public have hailed President William Ruto's Mashujaa address, saying it touched on pertinent issues to the nation. The leaders say although this speech was long, it contained a message for each Kenyan and largely outlined measures to revive the economy. Kenyans expressed optimism that the Hustler Fund will come to fruition.
Kenyans from all walks of life had high expectations on President William Ruto's speech at the 59th Mashujaa Day celebrations. The hour-long address, according to those in attendance, was comprehensive in breadth and depth.
It touched on the current challenges that Kenyans are undergoing, especially on the issues of drought, which is actually a number one problem now. And I think it's a realistic speech that we need to keep looking for a solution.
I think today it's covered almost all sectors of the country.
Leaders hailed the president's measures to boost agriculture and response to drought and cost of living.
He actually has been very consistent on the matter of fertilizer. I'm happy that those who come from the farming communities are going to really benefit from his policy.
You must have heard about the emphasis on the prices of food, which for him is going for both immediate by supplying food to the areas that are affected, and also the emphasis on reduction of fertilizer.
The commitment to end banditry and cattle rustling in Baringo was welcomed by leaders from the conflict-prone area who have yearned for a permanent solution to insecurity.
I think this is the end of banditry in Kenya. And I like the way the president has consistently reminded these bandits that their time is up. We cannot, in the 21st century, in Kenya today, be allowing people to kill, maim, displace people without anything being done.
Like I'm standing here with this girl, she's our hero. Remember the bus that was attacked? And she's a Pokot. And Pokots were attacking a bus, which the school is in Marakwet. And she came out and said, I am a Pokot, you can just kill me and leave the Marakwets. The end of banditry attack.
Members of the public, however, were keen on the Hustler Fund promise, with hopes for a reasonable interest rate.
We are waiting for that Hustler Fund so that we can go and borrow it, go do business. Once we do the business, then we can repay that loan.
We are really in a very tough economic times. So I want to believe that once that is rolled out, many Kenyans, young people will be able to benefit.
The youth also held the call to green the country amid threatening efforts of climate change.
I'm challenged that there will be a certificate after you plant 300 trees. So we are looking towards sustainable development in an environment.
With the president's speech said to be one of the longest that he has ever made in the recent past, leaders say issues contained in that address portray the challenges that Kenyans face, giving hope to the public that most of the challenges will be addressed in the right manner. Kamche Menza for Prime Edition at Uhuru Gardens, Nairobi.
Well, you're watching the Prime Edition live from Broadcasting House. We're taking a short break and thereafter we'll be back and I will be telling you why Miguna is back in the country.
Kupata skiza tune ya mambo mema, dial star 811 star 815 hash.
Mambo mema huwaendea watu wanaosubiri, ila mambo mema zaidi huwaendea watu wanaoyatafuta. Kupata mambo mema ni kufanikiwa, na kufanikiwa ni kutabasamu, kutafakari na kuhesabu mema na baraka ulizozichukulia hatua, ukazitafuta na kuzipata. Amka, tafuta ufanisi wako.
Kupata skiza tune ya mambo mema, dial star 811 star 815 hash. Star 811 star 815 hash.
Zote mse.
Bana jo. Somo tote.
Na mbona wanaongea vitu za uongo ati mimi niliiba? Wewe, kuna pesa yako yoyote imepotea hata wewe uko na pesa kweli?
Hapana mama, hakuna pesa yangu imepotea na mimi niko na pesa.
Na mbona unakuja kusema ati pesa ilipotea, sijui mwizi yako kwa nyumba? Mimi nakuanga kwako.
Before ujibu, mimi sina rauo, sina simu. Napatikanaje kwa mchwete nikitoa maafiri?
Sasa wewe
nitajibu
hizo maswali atajibu gani ya wache gani?
Interpret for me. Naweza kuwa nasema ujinga. Unaniita mjinga mimi?
Anauliza ikiwa amesema yeye hapatikani kwa hiyo M-Pesa. Anaweza kuwa anasema yeye anasema ujinga.
Na ananiambia mimi niko na ujinga.
Hakusema wewe.
Ananikichapia imbu wenye aje. Kwanza mimi si mimi. Unacheki? Si radi umdenge. Naweza kuwa nasema uanga.
Mimi si mimi ni wewe, si ndio? Kurada ni kujua. Ujui msijana? Wewe anajua yeye, nyinyi ni friends.
Umejuaje?
At KBC Channel 1, we put people at the heart of events with our captivating weekly news features. Every day, we are breaking new grounds with informative, entertaining, and inspiring human interest stories. On Mondays, 9 p.m., we have The Cabinets. Tuesday, 9 p.m., we get inside the barracks for military tales. We delve in the world of cinemas and theater each Wednesday night. For the young and industrious, make a date with us every Thursday at 9 p.m. Fridays are dedicated for my culture. On Saturdays, we go back in time for history in perspective. And on Sundays, we get to know the process of how things are done and made. KBC Channel 1 News features a whole lot of wonderful viewing experience.
Welcome back. Controversial lawyer Miguna is back in the country after being deported in 2018. Miguna, who jetted in Thursday morning, said he is happy to be back in the country after almost 4 years in exile. Miguna was all smile as he was received by relatives and friends at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. He was among guests at the Mashujadi celebrations.
Thursday, 6 a.m. at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, celebrations rocked the mood as deported Kenyan lawyer Miguna arrived from Canada, where he had lived in since 2018. The controversial lawyer was kicked out of the country for carrying out a mock swearing-in of ODM party leader Raila Odinga as the people's president, following the contentious 2017 general election.
I'm not boarding. I don't have a passport. I'm not boarding. I'm not going. Where are my luggage? Where is my passport?
His several attempts to return to Kenya subsequently did not bear fruit. Speaking after his arrival, Miguna, who attended the 59th edition of Mashujaa celebrations, said it has taken fearlessness, persistence and commitment for him to be back in the country. He lauded President William Ruto for keeping his word to facilitate his return.
And since President Ruto was sworn in, it has taken honesty. He said that he would facilitate my return, and he did. And we have to commend him for that. He's a man of his word.
Elated, Miguna said he smelt the freshness of Kenyan oxygen and freedom.
Take it in, right? And then, you know me, you will see what you see. Speaking the truth. Yes.
Frederick Muki for Prime Edition.
Elsewhere, the Kenya Defence Forces jet displayed beautiful art pieces by Kenyan artists, inspirational entertainment by pupils, and Shujaa naming flaunts lit up the 12th Mashujaa Day celebration at Uhuru Gardens in Nairobi. Erin Wachuma Odim has the light moments from the celebrations.
Kenyans started arriving for the Mashujaa celebration at Uhuru Gardens in droves as early as 3 a.m. In anticipation of yet another historic and fulfilling day, the young and not the so young clothed for the occasion. School-going children donned in white and green wares while holding the Kenyan flag on either hand excited the crowd with sweet melodies. And then this performance on the Shujaa Simama. The formations of the Kenyan map, the word Shujaa, and a dove with its wings spread were splendid. The Kenya Defence Forces fighter jets display was as startling as ever. The colors of the Kenyan flag evidently stood out in decos.
Nakuona na picha, nakuona pia na begi, mambo ni yapi?
Mambo tu ni kufurahia huyu president wetu William Samoei Ruto, na tuko na shukrani sana kwa Wakenya kwa sababu walimchagua.
Ni siku yangu ya kwanza leo kufika katika sherehe ya kitaifa kama hii. Ni siku ya mashujaa. Shujaa wa kwanza ni wazazi wangu, mamangu Mora na babangu Charles kutoka kule Kianja, Taranganya.
Thousands of Kenyans came from varied counties to be part of the Mashujaa Day celebrations in the county of Nairobi. It has been one that they have described as colorful and impactful. In fact, they want such similar events to take place more often towards development and unity of the country. Irene Mchuma Odim, Channel 1 in the county of Nairobi.
Irene Mchuma there highlighting the soft part of today's Mashujaa Day celebrations at the Uhuru Gardens. Let's now cross over to the city of Mombasa, where the county governor Abdul Swamad Nasiri has promised to make the coastal city of Mombasa safe and secure for investors and tourists. Nasir, who was speaking during Mashujaa Day celebrations at the Mama Ngina waterfront, asked residents to collaborate with the security agencies in volunteering information that can aid police in curbing crime.
Song and dance is what characterized the Mashujaa celebrations at the Mama Ngina waterfront. Despite the low turnout, a section of religious and political leaders graced the occasion. Here, Mombasa County Governor Abdul Swamad Nasir promised that his government will work closely with the national government to ensure that the tourist city is secure.
Siku ya Ijumaa, we facilitate a sitting with all leadership tuweze kupanga mikakati ya usalama wa kaunti ya Mombasa, tusikie na kutoka kwao yale matatizo yaliyoko mashinani, kuanzia ma-MCA wetu, wabunge wetu, na tuweze kusikia pia kutoka kwa upande wa serikali kuu na serikali ya kaunti itaweza kuweka mikakati gani tuweze kusonga mbele pamoja.
His sentiments were echoed by Mvita and Kisauni constituency members of parliament who called on the youth to keep off criminal activities.
Tuko tayari, milango yetu iko wazi kukaa na serikali kuhakikisha vijana wamereform na kuwafanyia bidii wawe katika maisha ya kijamii mazuri.
Hasa sehemu ya Kisauni tuendelee kushirikiana. Tushirikiane kwa karibu sana kuhakikisha kwamba usalama unapatikana zaidi katika sehemu ya Kisauni, watu waishi na amani na wawekezaji waweze kuja Kisauni.
Kisauni member of parliament Rashid Bedzimba noted that the maturity exhibited by Kenyans in the just concluded elections has boosted investor confidence in the country.
Tumeweka historia Afrika nzima na hata ulimwengu umetuangalia kwamba Kenya hivi sasa, na nina imani kwa matendo mliofanya ya kishujaa, wawekezaji wengi sana watakuja kuwekeza taifa hili kwa sababu wana imani hakuna fujo yoyote inaweza kutokea. Kwa hivyo sote ni mashujaa.
And with the port operations brought back to Mombasa, the leaders are optimistic that the youth will get employment opportunities.
So nitaomba Mheshimiwa Rais atoe amri pia nafasi za kazi zifunguliwe ndani ya Mombasa, white card irudi, vijana wetu wapate ajira.
Meanwhile, the Kenya National Blood Transfusion Team pitched tent at the celebrations, calling upon residents to donate blood to save lives.
Siku ya leo nimeona kuna watu wanaelewa wanaweza toa damu na kusaidia, na tumewahimiza still wasi wanakuja kutoa wakati wa shujaa, hata kila siku wanaweza kututembelea na wakuje watoe damu watusaidie. Because kila siku after every 10 minutes unapata kuna mgonjwa anahitaji hiyo dawa.
Those who donated saying they too were shujaz since the contribution would go into saving life.
Mashujaa ni siku ya kusherehekea mashujaa wetu wenye walisaidia kupigania uhuru. So pia mimi nimeona ni vizuri nisherehekee na hao mashujaa kwa kutoa damu.
For Prime Edition from Mombasa County, I am Anburu.
Away from the coastal city of Mombasa to the lakeside city of Kisumu, where issues of security dominated Mashujaa Day celebrations in Kisumu County. The residents were asked to liaise with security personnel to address rising cases of insecurity. Kisumu County Commissioner Josephine Ouko said they have intensified night patrols in efforts to combat crime, as reported by Wycliffe Okech.
Mashujaa Day celebrations were marked in style in the lakeside county of Kisumu. A range of entertainment pieces such as songs, police band march and eating competition kept the gathering on its feet. The issue of insecurity would, however, make its way here, with speakers noting the lakeside county has recorded increased cases of crime in the recent past, with residents being urged to volunteer information to police to aid security efforts.
We are calling upon you as a person to come up and work with us to ensure that we improve on our security in our neighborhoods. These children, more so who are involved in crime, they are actually our children. They are our neighbors. They are people whom we live with. They are people whom we know.
Kisumu County Commissioner Josephine Ouko revealed that they have rolled out night patrols to nab criminal elements.
Na mkanisaidia. Kwa hii muda nitakuwa hapa Kisumu. Hao hizi watafute mahali ingine watakaa. Na kama unajua wewe ni mwizi, tafuta kazi nyingine. Mimi sitacheka na wewe.
The ailing economy and struggles of small-scale businesses in Kisumu did not go unnoticed either.
I wish to commit that the people of Kisumu will instill and increase and improve service delivery. I have instructed all sub-county, ward and village administrators to file daily reports in my office on issues affecting our people. This will enable us to make quick interventions.
Residents were also urged to continue preserving peace, noting it will fuel economic growth. For Prime Edition, I am Wycliffe Okech.
Elsewhere, governors who led Mashujaa Day celebrations in other devolved units urged residents to support their leaders in addressing region-specific needs. Kenyans across the 47 counties honored the country's heroes and heroines.
Thousands of Kenyans from all 47 counties flocked to their respective stadiums to mark the 59th Mashujaa Day. Speaking during the celebrations at the KMTC grounds, Siaya County, Area County Commissioner Jim Njoke and Governor James Orengo called for cordial working relations between the county and national governments to enhance service delivery to the people.
Tukifanya kazi, tunafanya kazi kwa wananchi. Na serikali, iwe serikali ya ugatuzi ama serikali ya juu, tunafanyia kazi wananchi wa Kenya.
We have a stakeholders forum so that we have a session so that we come up with something that is acceptable to all of us.
In Wajir Stadium, Governor Ahmed Abdullahi disbanded the current management of Wajir Referral Hospital and appointed a new team. The governor pledging to ensure public hospitals offer quality round-the-clock services.
We have now reconstituted the hospital management team under a completely new management structure.
In Kiambu, area Governor Kimani wa Matangi put on notice health staff employed by the county who are operating private clinics, noting most of them are diverting patients to their facilities instead of treating them in hospitals, saying such actions will not be tolerated.
Madaktari ndani ya kaunti ya Kiambu ambao tunafanya kazi hapa, tafadhali kwenye hospitali zetu, kama wewe ulikuwa mjuaji hapo mbeleni, umeenda umefungua chemist yako hapo nje, sasa ujue wewe sisi tutaandamana na wewe.
And in Machakos, Governor Wavinya Ndeti lauded Kenyans for maintaining peace during and after general elections.
We must retain peace in this country. We must love our country.
In West Pokot, Governor Simon Kachapin and County Commissioner Apollo Okelo assured residents facing food shortage that intervention measures were on course.
We will also engage our donors and partners to ensure that we support farmers to realize maximum harvest and farming technologies.
A similar pledge was made in Mandera during celebrations held at Lefi sub-county.
Serikali itatia mkazo zaidi kuhakikisha kila Mkenya ama hakuna Mkenya ambaye atakufa kwa baa la njaa.
In Busia, the county commissioner Samson Ojwang warned the security personnel against harassing citizens.
Hakuna mauaji yanayofanyika Busia hapa kutokana na vikosi vya usalama ya kiolela hakuna.
Finally, in Bomet, the governor, Professor Hilary Barchok, pledged to work with the national government in enhancing service delivery to the people and fulfilling his election pledge to the people of Bomet.
This year's Mashujaa Day should be a clarion call to all of us who believe in charting the way forward in uplifting the social and economic statuses of our people.
Well, as Kenya marked Mashujaa Day, a rather rare category of people were celebrated, blood donors. In this nation, Kennedy Sanya and Aisha Dafala are Mashujaa, having donated 100 pint and 73 pint respectively. It is such sacrifices that have kept citizens like Tabitha Muthoni alive. Our reporter has the details.
Tabitha Modhoni, a 36-year-old businesswoman in Nakuru County, lives with ulcerative colitis, a long-term inflammation and bleeding of the large intestine. This inflammation drains her O-negative blood, which is a rare find locally.
Nilidiagnosed na ulcerative colitis in 2005. That is in Kijabe Hospital. But before that nilikuwa nimeteseka for long. Nilikuwa natembea kila mahali, nenda napatikana HBs zangu ziko chini na transfusiwa.
She has been on regular blood transfusions for the last 25 years, albeit the immense difficulties in finding donors for her blood type. Modhoni says she has had to go through 2 high-risk pregnancies that required her to have increased blood transfusions.
I had to stay in the hospital for like 3 to 4 months. Nikajifungua mtoto na 6 months.
She says a lot more recipients like her in the country owe their life to regular donors of blood.
Blood group yangu ni very rare kupata, but sijaipiga simu hapa nikaambiwa hakuna damu. Even if it's 2 AM ya usiku, wanatumananga, wanakuja wanafungua, ninatolewa damu, inatumwa hospitali na nasaidika.
Modhoni's godsend comes in the shape of phenomenal blood donors like Kennedy Sanya and Aisha Dafala, whom she describes as her hero and heroine for saving the fragile lives of people like her.
To me, mashujaa ni mtu wote mwenye anaingia kwa blood bank bila kuitwa ama bila kupigiwa simu, like Aisha na Sanyo, wanenda wana donate. Nobody told them to donate, but they do it willingly.
Sanya, a 45-year-old criminologist at the Nakuru County government, is the highest recorded male blood donor in the country with 100 blood donations under his belt.
I feel very proud that even in the history of our country, surely I'll have a footnote that I was the first Kenyan to cross the 100th blood donation. And I'm very healthy. God has blessed me. And I think I should be a role model to our youth that you can do anything voluntary.
This feat has earned him the coveted title of Blood Ambassador, which was conferred upon him by the outgoing Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe.
Hatujafika ile kiwango ambao tunatakana kuwa na damu ambao should be kind of that is needed katika inchi.
The father of 3 teenagers says his selfless conviction to the cause is solely premised on a duty to a fellow being.
The fact that you've saved somebody's life, to me, hiyo ndio the most important thing that I find that is so reaching and so fulfilling in my life.
Kennedy's sentiments are shared by Aisha Dafala, a 73-time blood donor and outspoken advocate of quality healthcare. She called for scaled-up awareness drives in the counties about healthy blood and blood donation to ramp up voluntary blood donation by Kenyans.
Na kuna hawana information, wengine hawajui ni nani anafaa kutoa damu, ni wapi naweza kutoa damu. Watu wengine mtu anataka kutoa damu lakini anaona kama kwenda hospitali ni shida.
The Kenya National Blood Transfusion Service reports that every 10 minutes, 7 Kenyans need blood and blood products and are at a risk of dying if blood is not available for transfusion. Currently, the country's blood banks require between 500,000 and 1 million units of blood annually. This is why the Kenya Tissue and Transplant Authority aims to conduct various blood drive campaigns across the country. The campaign, dubbed I Am Shujaa, I Saved a Life, calls upon all Kenyans to come together and donate blood in order to save the lives of those in dire need of blood donations.
Ukitoa damu yako 1 pint, believe me or not, when is shujaa, manaki hiyo damu itasave Mkenya na you'll be a hero to that family, to that person ambao you have saved.
Collins Shadrack for Prime Edition.
The legends and familiar chants will grace KBC once again. Don't need.
Remember people like Issa, we remember people like Achieng Abura, we remember people like Big Kev and the things they did. And how can we even forget somebody like Papa Shirandula or Juang, all these people? Who do you remember?
All of them are soundtracks to anyone who's watched them or
listen to the music, it always evokes an emotion in you.
How many people have got names after them?
Eric Onaina is a singer and a songwriter and a husband and a father and a lover of animals. I love all animals. Naishi natumaini najitolea daima Kenya hakika ya bendera.
Well, remember, in about 15 minutes from now or less, we shall be having our live interview here. And of course, we shall be looking at President Ruto's speech, the hit and the misses. And of course, we're also having our sports, which is coming right after the international news, where the United Kingdom Prime Minister Liz Truss has resigned and has notified the King of her decision to quit office. In a statement outside Downing Street, Truss, who has served for 45 days, said she could not deliver on her mandate on which she was elected as a Tory leader.
Given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected by the Conservative Party. I have therefore spoken to His Majesty the King to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party.
With 44 days in office, Liz Truss makes history as the shortest-serving United Kingdom Prime Minister. Truss succeeded Boris Johnson as Prime Minister on 6 September this year, after defeating Rishi Sunak in the Conservative Party leadership contest and meeting the Queen at Balmoral. She said she came into office at a time of great economic and international instability, where families and businesses were worried about how to pay their bills. Truss' time in office has been dominated by market chaos, prompted by the mini budget that was announced by former Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng last month.
And her supposed best friend, the former Chancellor, he's gone as well. They're all gone. So why is she still here?
Mr. Speaker, I am a fighter and not a quitter.
Despite sacking Kwarteng last week and reversing almost all the unfunded tasks that had been proposed, the Prime Minister's position had continued to come under pressure. Some Tory members of Parliament had publicly called for her resignation, but many others had privately suggested her time was up. She will, however, remain as Prime Minister until a successor has been chosen.
This will ensure that we remain on a path to deliver our fiscal plans and maintain our country's economic stability and national security. I will remain as Prime Minister until a successor has been chosen. Thank you.
Timothy Kipnosu for Prime Edition.
Still on international news, where World Health Organization is urging countries neighboring Uganda to be on high alert as cases of Ebola infection in Uganda escalate. This even as 8 more cases were reported. The cases have no known links to the current patients. So far, the fatality rate has risen to 44, with a total of 60 confirmed cases in Uganda.
The World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom expressed concern that there may be more chains of transmission and more contacts than is known in the affected communities in Uganda. Adhanom has called upon countries to heighten surveillance and scale up screening in anticipation of combating the deadly Ebola virus. This even as WHO collaborate with the Ugandan government in setting up trial of 2 vaccines which are in its early stages of development. One is being developed by Oxford University and the Serum Institute, and the other made by the Sabin Institute in the United States. Uganda has, however, employed stringent measures in curbing the spread of the Ebola virus. Opicho Chemtai for Prime Edition.
What time now to shift focus and have a look at sports news. Just remember that we have about 30 days before the World Cup, which is going to happen or taking place in Qatar. And Peter Monga is our sports anchor. He's now joining us. Peter, what should we look forward for in Qatar?
Well, of course, as you said, it's a month to the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. And next month, the time like now, we shall be here talking about the first match actually shall be ongoing to kick off at 6 p.m. So KBC Channel 1, as always, your true sports partner, shall be bringing you 28 matches. Well, our subsidiaries, that is the radio stations and other stations, of course, shall be bringing all the 64 matches. Well, once again, I am Richard Munga with the day's sport. Now, two-time Rotterdam Marathon champion Marius Kipserem has been handed a 3-year ban by the Athletics Integrity Unit, that is AIU, after testing positive for EPO. Kipserem won the Rotterdam Marathon twice in 2016 and 2019. He tested positive for EPO in an out-of-competition test done in August in Kapsabet, Kenya. According to a statement from the AIU, the athlete initially denied the use of doping substances and could not explain the reason for the presence of EPO in his body. But this month, he acknowledged the infraction and accepted the consequences. The admission of guilt reduces the sanction provided for the cases from 4 to 3 years. His results since 17th of August this year have been disqualified. A total of 3 Kenyan athletes have been banned since last week due to doping-related cases.
2:04:10 officieus. Een nieuw parcoursrecord in deze 39e editie. Dus toch.
Meanwhile, Kenya will host the Zone 5 International Handball Federation Trophy Tournament between the 24th and 30th of this month at the Ulinzi Sports Complex at the Langata Barracks and also the Nyayo National Stadium. The event has attracted 20 teams from 10 countries from the continent. Kenya Handball Federation Technical Director Charles Omondi said the event, which is sponsored by the National Olympic Committee of Kenya (NOC), is meant to nurture young talent. International Handball Federation lecturer Zoltan Makzinska will conduct training during the event for coaches of participating teams. NOC Secretary General Francis Mutuku urged more federations to host such tournaments, saying they are ready to support them. The tournament will also be used as a platform by coaches with teams represented in the competition to get training, which will be conducted by IHF lecturer, once again, Zoltan Makzinska. To other matters now, Ronaldo Luis Nazario de Lima, simply known as Ronaldo or R9, is a former Brazilian international considered as one of the best strikers to ever grace the game. The energetic talisman guided Brazil to the 2002 World Cup title in Japan. He is the second top scorer of all time in the global event with 15 goals.
Ronaldo, now 46 years old, was the youngest member of the Brazilian squad that won the 1994 FIFA World Cup age 17. In the 1998 event held in France, he scored 4 goals which were against Morocco in the group stage, a brace against Chile in the round of 16, as well as a goal against the Netherlands in the semi-finals.
Ronaldo, 13 goals now in the World Cup finals.
In the 2002 finals held in South Korea and Japan, he was the top scorer with 8 goals, including 2 in the final against Germany, as his team won the trophy for a record 5th time.
Ronaldo's left it, Ronaldo scores! Look at this, Ronaldo!
In 2006, he played his last World Cup scoring 3 goals as Brazil were eliminated by France in the quarter-final. He will be remembered for winning 2 World Cup titles for Brazil in 1994 and 2002.
The global game, world champions again. Hiya, 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 hiya. You know what it is. Hiya, hiya, hiya.
Well, of course, Brazil, current squad being among the favourites to win this year's World Cup title. As well as stated by most football fans, we shall be bringing you regular updates in regards to the World Cup before it happens in Qatar. That is on the 20th of November till the 18th of December. Now, elsewhere, Cameroon striker Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting scored a brace as Bayern Munich beat FC Augsburg 5-2 in round 2 of the Germans' DFB Pokal Cup. Augsburg took the lead in the 9th minute through Danish left-back Mads Pedersen before Choupo-Moting equalized in the 27th minute. The Bavarians, however, scored 4 second-half goals to sink the home team at the WWK Arena. In another match, VfB Stuttgart thrashed Arminia Bielefeld 6-0 at the Mercedes-Benz Arena. Luca Pfeiffer scored 2 goals to help Stuttgart inflict a heavy defeat to Arminia.
Pavard. Gnabry buzzing around. This is Choupo-Moting. He slid it in. The Bayern press begins now and Greso gets it and they've nicked it from Mane. Choupo-Moting and Kimmich. Musiala. It's beautiful on Augsburg. Have got in a real mess. And Davis, it's a brilliant nutmeg. Davis to Musiala. Is this Muller waiting? Muller spotting. Davis arriving. Yes.
Sensational indeed. Well, that's all the time we had for Sports Night. I'm Richard Munga. But don't go too far. On the other side of the studio is Brian Kimani, of course, ready with today's interactive interview. Brian, take over.
Well, thank you very much indeed. And it's always good to remind Kenyans that, Kenya, the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation shall be beaming live the World Cup matches from Qatar. So you do keep it right here. That is in about 30 days from now. Let's now turn on to our focus to other issues. And of course, today's speech by President William Ruto was full of many things, and the president touched on, among others, the agriculture sector, the transport sector, the housing, security, as well as reforming the security apparatus in this country. Well, joining me now on the set tonight is Sylvester Kasuku. He's a public policy analyst, and he's also the former and the founding managing director or CEO of LAPSET, which is his pet project. And of course, the president also talked about Lamu Port after it became or the first consignment of live animals exported to Oman. We shall be discussing this plus more. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Sylvester. Well, this was first President William Ruto's first public ceremony. So how do you rate his speech, first of all?
Thank you, Brian. First and foremost, it's very clear that the president was outlining, the policies and programs that his government is going to pursue. And basically, he was now making it clearer, defining it, and actually packaging it. And at the same time, unpacking it for Kenyans to understand what he is going to deliver. And of course, the key areas that he touched definitely also meant that he was speaking to the specific beneficiary or, the segments of the population that are meant to benefit this, because he clearly outlined that. Like if I were to look at issues of affordable credit, definitely he indicated very clearly that he is looking at how to reduce the burden of borrowing, particularly for the small-scale people, or what you call those who borrow from Fuliza.
Yeah.
And one very interesting thing is that the credit reference bureaus were not just affecting even people at the lower level, but sometimes they were even having misreports. Like you could go there and you don't owe anything, and only to find that maybe they are making reference to some credit that you had taken way back and was already paid, but they were indicating that you have a bad name, So I think they really needed to be structured, to be restructured. So that will go well. Looking at issues of agriculture, and particularly food security, this is something that is very emotive, and you really do understand how the cost of ugali is hurting Kenyans.
Yeah.
Looking at the deficit that was suffered during the last year, a deficit of 10 million bags meant that many parts of this country, or a huge population, was actually going to starve. And the prices therefore rose very high because demand was quite high for very little harvest that was available. And lowering the cost of inputs is something that is very important in the agricultural sector. The cost of fertilizer being brought down by more than half. The promise to provide seeds, providing agricultural chemicals, making better extension services. This, if done really, we should really expect a lot of improvements. Number one, in production. Number two, in the cost of production. Number three, and even returns that farmers get. And number four, even supporting other sectors of the economy that depend on agricultural production. And for example, agro-processing.
I want to interject at that point because, I mean, look, the issues of farm inputs subsidies or subsidizing farm inputs, I mean, this is not a new concept. The former president, the late President Moi, embarked on these where he started subsidizing seeds. He started subsidizing fertilizer as well. President Mwai Kibaki took over. He did the same. President Kenyatta did the same. Junior, and now Ruto is embarking on the same. Is it effective, really, or are we getting the concept wrong?
I think there is a kind of a difference in my view. According to the promise he was making, he's showing that it's not just a matter of subsidizing, but for example, seeds, provision of certified seeds, and investing in seed production, not just subsidizing, is very important. When seeds are not correct, the yields are usually affected. Number two, looking at the issue of fertilizer, he has talked about a solution of working with the neighbors, East African regional partners, to establish fertilizer production plants within the region so that we can produce locally and also lower that. I think if that works, then it will go beyond subsidy.
But of course, it's good to remember that we have companies that are producing fertilizer in this country. For example, you have one of the largest in East Africa, the Yara fertilizer company, which is based in Nakuru. So how different will the proposed or the company that he talked about be different?
O'Brien, my view could point to the fact that if you look at the production capacity of that particular company, it can't meet the demands of the market. Sometimes when goods are too scarce, the prices go up. Therefore, if you again depend on importation, and we also understand that the global challenges that affected production, particularly, and distribution, in terms of logistics value chain, also impacted in terms of increasing the prices, like the war between Russia and Ukraine have affected us. So if we start to produce and we produce enough, what can be supported? What can support the economy in terms of supporting agriculture? I believe that will lower the cost, particularly if there is government interest, if there is government investment, and if there is government facilitation in terms of incentives that need to support local production of fertilizer. That will make it go down. Look at Nigeria. The fertilizer costing less than 3,000 shillings a bag because local investors like Dangote have heavily invested in fertilizer production in Nigeria. What we need is actually for the government to support our industrialists and to provide partnerships with industrialists so that we can start to produce fertilizer and looking at the market beyond our borders. Because if you look at economies of scale in terms of consuming what is produced locally beyond the borders of Kenya, and what can be produced in Uganda can still reach us with better, without barriers in terms of tariffs or whatever, then that can lower the cost of fertilizer. Yeah,
but even before you go to you move away from the issue of fertilizer, have we come to the conclusion that subsidizing fertilizer is going to unlock all the opportunities that we have in the agriculture sector? Because, for example, look, when you look at post-harvest losses, they account of about between 40 and 45% of all local produce, especially more so in the maize growing zones. So if we do not address the other challenges, then are we going to be addressing the issue of food insecurity in Kenya?
Yes, that's where I was going. I wanted to say that there are other sectors that are connected to agriculture that must equally receive attention. For example, industries or agro-processing industries that need to convert what is being produced from the farms into higher value products that can also have longer shelf lives and that can have a wider markets for consumption and for distribution. So that really needs to be worked on because if you have a bumper harvest beyond what you can contain even in the grain stores, and beyond what you can consume locally, and beyond what you can find a market for immediately before they go bad, then it means that there will be another challenge altogether. And that might also demoralize farmers. So I believe that what is talking about supporting industrial development. The other day he was talking about supporting the manufacturers and producers of industrial products and processors. I hope that will go into supporting the farmers or agricultural businesses so that they do not get affected by lack of market. Yeah.
Before I let you go on that issue, I want to hear from you. I mean, when you look at the whole, agricultural value chain, there are so many components. There is transport, there is labor, there is climate, there is farm input, there are brokers in the middle. And have we managed to do a full psychoanalysis of this sector and determined what exactly is ailing the agriculture sector in Kenya?
There are many things that ail this sector. Number one, there is even lack of certain connecting infrastructure to producing areas. Like during the rainy seasons, if you look at areas where there is a lot of dairy production, production of milk, you find that milk cannot even reach the factories or the processing plants. So that is an issue, which means therefore there is a need to address what you call connecting infrastructure that connect farmers to these points of collection or points of processing and the like. That is important. The other thing definitely is when we talk about financing of agricultural production, even if the cost of fertilizer was low, but you cannot access credit that is that is equally facilitative of agricultural activities in a profitable manner, then you still have a challenge. So addressing the issue of credit, access to credit, should somebody want to borrow to take part in agricultural production, then that will be very important. So credit has to be addressed. Issues of infrastructure have to be addressed. Issues of markets have to be addressed. And it's high time we dealt with, we might be having small scale producers all over. And that will be something that needs to be managed, which therefore means that we need aggregators. Not each and every small producer will be running to maybe a processing plant or be putting up their own processing facilities, but we might need aggregators who actually also I don't want to talk about like brokers of sorts. No, aggregators of agricultural produce. There might be small-scale producers who do not have to really run around going for long distances looking for market. But if we have people who can also invest in aggregation, in aggregating what is produced by small-scale producers, then that can go a long way, again, in supporting local producers at the local level.
Can you also tell us, what has been the impact of land subdivision in this country, and more so in the fertile lands, for example, in Kiambu County, in Murang'a, in Nyeri, in Trans Nzoia, in Kisii? What impact has this had?
Definitely it has affected agriculture, space for agricultural production a great deal. And when land is subdivided to very minute portions such that you can barely produce even on an acre, on some kind of crops that you might need even 10 acres for you to be doing good business, then it means we start to diminish returns that farmers get. Or even if you struggle with the little money you have and you are producing on a half an acre, what you need to be meaningfully producing on maybe 5 acres, then it means we are also reducing earnings. We are reducing capacity for farmers to produce. So we know that there is a need, therefore, to look for ways of managing land that is meant to be used for agriculture.
Yeah.
But the other side of agriculture that we have not addressed is actually how to utilize the dry lands or the ASAL areas for agricultural production. There is actually dry land agricultural production technologies that are applied. If you go to a place like Iran, you'll find them producing rice.
Oh, Israel.
In a very arid area. You go to Israel, I mean, they produce. Go to Egypt, they produce. So we need to address agriculture through irrigation. And I think he did talk about irrigation, and he talked about having about 100 dams built through PPP schemes. And government, being the only investor in dams, therefore reduced the ability for the government to support irrigation production fully. So water also needs to be produced, needs to be treated as a resource, as an input, which other investors can actually put their money in so that this water become available, and those who now need it for agricultural production can actually utilize it.
Very well.
And the government can see how to support those kind of investors. And also increasing, like currently, the space for irrigation is about 3 million acres. And he's talking about increasing this space to about 4.5 million acres. So the more we convert land within the country in areas that have not been supporting agriculture to turn into agricultural land, then I believe we will be moving in the right direction.
Let's talk about something else that the president talked about, and this is the issue of housing. I know it has been a challenge whereby, the housing demand in this country far much, or far more outstrip, supply. The affordable housing, he has talked about rejigging, the affordable housing, which was which is a major issue within government. What aspect of affordable housing should we address?
Definitely, whenever we've been talking about housing, there's been the idea of producing housing which is only maybe bought by those who have pockets that can afford. And housing inputs are equally critical, just like in agriculture. Housing inputs are critical. We are talking about infrastructure.
Yeah.
We are talking about land, and the cost of land many times actually drive the housing prices to be very high. So if, as already contained in the speech, that the national government partners with the county governments, such that, and the county governments have land, such that the county governments provide land, and the national government bring in resources to make sure that we develop the roads that are needed, we develop sewer, we develop water and electricity supply to all the units that are built, then that will start to bring down the cost of housing.
But this is what has been happening exactly with the affordable housing plan.
I don't think if it has been happening, to an extent that it should reach the type of people that are being addressed here. Those who can actually pay a mortgage of 5,000 shillings a month. I mean, even if those houses are built and you think that they are slightly lower, again, the prices of mortgages is very high. So getting pension funds to invest in housing, where the government actually defrays the costs that usually drive prices up, is what will bring the cost of housing down. So we are not talking about just low-cost housing. I think what the president was talking about is talking about social housing.
Yeah.
Those are two different things. So if you address social housing, which is meant to address the masses, then you have to bring down issues of costs down. And you must have schemes that enable people to be able to access this housing beyond the salaried segment of society. Yeah.
I know the concept of social housing has been very successful in Morocco, and I hope that as a government,
even
the government will be
Libya
borrowing and leave also Libya and so much. And so let's move on to the other issue, the issue of credit. Ensuring that more Kenyans have access to credit. The president has been talking about having a conversation with credit reference bureaus to ensure that 4 million Kenyans who are off the credit markets because of blacklisting are off that list. How do you think this will have an impact in the credit market?
When this issue of credit reference bureaus has really been a barrier, it was operating such that even if somebody borrows money, whether using mobile platforms, and they don't pay, straight away they are blacklisted. And even if you looked at some of the loans that were being given by some of these banks like KCB, Equity, among many other banks, if a credit reference bureau showed that you are not a good person, or did not give you a favorable rating, then definitely you are not being given a loan, even if you are you can actually take that loan and pay. But they base their their intentions to lend or their evaluation on the report from the credit reference bureaus. So if we move away from blacklisting to giving credit scoring, and credit scoring that again also does not become a barrier to borrowing, then that can enable more people to be able to borrow. Yeah.
And the other thing that the president talked about, of course, is the issue of the Lamu port. I know this was your pet project. You were part of the concept team, and you also mandated to ensure that the project takes place. And now the president talked about the export of the first consignment of live animals. How did you feel about that?
I felt very fulfilled because these were some of the plans that were well articulated and they were well researched and they were well planned. And if you looked at even what we looked at in the country, we actually drew 3 livestock corridors. One corridor that connects the region around Turkana, bringing a segment from Ethiopia around the Lake Turkana area, from Uganda, from South Sudan, coming down through Isiolo. Then the segment that comes from Moyale, coming down through Marsabit again, connecting along the corridor through Isiolo, going to Lamu. Then the corridor that comes from Mandera, bringing an aspect of livestock that might be coming from the side of Somalia, the side of Ethiopia, that neighbors that particular region, and coming through Wajir, Garissa, and going to Lamu. And with a huge livestock holding area, which is meant to process the livestock, not in terms of slaughtering, but in terms of making sure that they are sanitized to make them safer in terms of removing if they have any diseases, they have ticks, they have whatever. They are therefore treated and made to be compliant to international market. And then now you can take them out through the port of Lamu. And there is a huge potential because livestock is a major resource of a huge part of Kenya. Close to over 60%, close to 70% of Kenya's land space is actually supporting livestock production. And I've not talked about the corridor that comes now from the Narok, Kajiado, going down through Taita, Taveta, all the way through Kilifi, also headed to Lamu. So we have a huge production zone, and we need to take a bite of the international pie in terms of market share.
Very well.
Yeah.
Well, Daktari, thank you very much indeed for joining us this evening.
We could have talked about it.
I can see time is not on our end. Well, as we say, time flies so fast when you're having fun. And great conversation as well.
Okay.
Asante sana for finding time to be with us this evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your Mashujadi.
Asante sana.
Well,
Have a good night.
Thank you very much. Sylvester Kasuku is a public policy analyst and the former CEO of LAPSET, joining us here tonight to help us make sense of President William Ruto's speech today during the Mashujadi celebrations at Uhuru Gardens. Well, we come to the end of this bulletin tonight. Thank you very much indeed for your time. My name is O'Brien Kimani. Enjoy the rest of your evening.